tonight on First at 9, this Wednesday the 18th of September 2024. The last day. All election campaigns to be halted from midnight tonight. Police are authorized to detain any person found to have violated election law during the pre-election silence. Final touch. Presidential candidates round up their election campaigns ahead of the polls. Youth for the future. Future of Sri Lanka from the perspective of young politicians and voters. Future developments. The government allocates 1,000 acres for an investment zone in Bingiriya. Another 500 acres in Iranavilla for a tourism zone.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Derana First at 9. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. Now today is the last day of campaigning for the 2024 presidential election. All campaign activities of the presidential candidates must cease at midnight tonight. A period of pre-election silence where all campaign activities are prohibited will be in effect from midnight tonight until election day on the 21st of September. Only 2 more days are left until polling commences for the 2024 presidential election. All election campaigning activities of the presidential candidates must cease at midnight tonight. Accordingly, a period of pre-election silence will be enforced until the morning of the 21st of September.
අද මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රී 12න් පසු ආරම්භ වෙනවා නිහඬ කාලය. අද දිනේ පැවැත්වෙන රැලි වලට අදාළ තොරතුරු ලබා දීම විද්‍යුත් මාධ්‍ය තුල හෙට මධ්‍යහන ප්‍රවෘත්තිවලින් පසු සිදු නොකළ යුතුයි.
The Election Commission emphasised that the police are authorised to detain any person found to have violated election law during the period of pre-election silence.
We
request that all unnecessary election campaigning activities be halted on social media platforms as well during the period of silence. The period of silence applies to all forms of media. We have formulated a plan and appointed several teams to investigate unnecessary promotional campaigns being carried out on social media platforms. We expect to remove unnecessary and illegal election campaign posts from social media platforms and to discuss with the parent companies of the platforms to prevent the publication of such posts. We also request that all unnecessary gatherings be avoided. Such gatherings have been prohibited by the security plan implemented by the police, the army and the special task force.
Meanwhile, election watchdog the People's Action for Free and Fair Elections commented on the preparations for monitoring the presidential election.
As of now, 4 election observer groups have arrived in Sri Lanka. These include groups from the European Union, the Commonwealth, the Asian Network for Free Election and several other Asian election observer groups that arrived in Sri Lanka upon the invitation of the Election Commission. Additionally, several local election observer groups will engage in election monitoring activities as well. PAFREL has deployed 5,000 observers for election monitoring activities.
Meanwhile, the Department of Excise announced that the sale of liquor will be prohibited on the 20th and 21st of September. The Ministry of Education meanwhile announced that all schools across the country will be closed on the 20th of September, adding that academic activities will recommence on Monday the 23rd. Additionally, the Education Ministry notified that schools which are to be utilised as polling or counting stations must be handed over to the local Grama Niladhari officer following the conclusion of academic activities on Thursday the 19th of September.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now.
Independent presidential candidate President Ranil Wickremesinghe revealed that a delegation from the International Monetary Fund will visit Sri Lanka 2 weeks after the presidential election, where they will officially announce Sri Lanka's emergence from bankruptcy. Speaking at a rally in Galle, the president requested the public to grant him a mandate allowing him to continue the economic progress that his government achieved during the past 2 years.
An election campaign rally pledging support to independent presidential candidate President Ranil Wickremesinghe was held in Galle today.
මම හිටපු සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ සමහර අය කිව්වා IMF කතාව සාර්ථක වෙන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. අපේ ඉන්න ආර්ථික උස්තාරලා කීප දෙනෙක්. සමහර අය කිව්වා IMF එකෙන් අපිට ණය දෙන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. සමහර අය කිව්වා ඔය ආණ්ඩුව මාස 5කින් 6කින් වැටෙනවා කියලා. සමහර අය කිව්වා අවුරුදු 5ක් 10ක් යනකම් මේ තත්ත්වය ගොඩ ගන්න බෑ ජනතාවට කණ්ඩ දෙන්න විදියක් නැහැයි කියලා. සමහර අය කිව්වා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ කවදාවත් ජනාධිපතිවරණේ තියන්නේ නැහැ කල් දානවා කියලා. සමහර අය කිව්වා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ තිබ්බත් ඡන්දෙ ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. සමහර අය කිව්වා එතුමා ජනාධිපතිවරණයට එන්නේ එයාව ආරක්ෂා කරපු රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තුරුන්ගේ සහයෝගයෙන් කියලා. මිත්‍රවරුනි ඒ හැම එකක්ම බොරු කරලා ඒ හැම එකක්ම පච කරලා අද මේ රටේ ජනතාවට පුළුවන් කියලා ඔප්පු කරපු එකම නායකයා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා කියලා මම මතක් කරනවා මිත්‍රවරුනි.
මම බාරගත්තේ මේ තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කළා බංකොලොත් භාවයෙන් ඉවත් කරන්න.
I accepted the responsibility to change the situation and pull the country out of bankruptcy. I have completed the first phase of that. Following discussions with the IMF, the World Bank and Asian Development Bank, I was able to arrive at an agreement that helps to maintain a sustainable debt level for a middle-income country such as Sri Lanka. The third group of creditors that we have to sign agreements with are the international bondholders. We will conclude the signing of this agreement tomorrow. I'm contesting the election by fulfilling the basic requirements. I have eliminated bankruptcy in Sri Lanka. Even though I have stabilized the economy, that progress has to be concrete. That process needs at least 2 to 3 years. If not, we will lose the progress. I request all of you to provide me a mandate on the 21st of September to continue those activities. Julie Kozak of the IMF said that they are not ready to amend the agreement. They confirmed that they will visit Sri Lanka 2 weeks after the election to finalize the remaining activities. They will announce that Sri Lanka has come out of bankruptcy. Can former Minister Anurukumara Disanayaka resolve these issues? He himself said that the economy expanded during my tenure. He said that he will implement our program. There is no point in voting him for that. I can do that. He said that he will govern the country for 1.5 years and resign if he feels that it is difficult to continue further. What is evident is that completing the task is difficult for him. I tuned to Derana to see what Sajid Premadasa has to say. However, he had not joined the program. How can he be suitable for his job if he is afraid to say what he is going to do for the country? Please think about your future. Do not let the country fall back into the previous state.
මම දිනනවා. අපි ඔක්කොම දිනනවා.
Meanwhile, opposition leader and presidential candidate of the Samagi Jana Sandhane, Sajid Premadasa, vowed to eradicate drugs and the underworld from the country within 6 months of his election to office. Addressing a rally in Monaragala, Premadasa requested the general public to celebrate the victory of his election to the office of president peacefully on the 21st of September.
An election campaign rally of the presidential candidate of the Samagi Jana Sandhane, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, was held in Monaragala today.
මිත්‍රවරුනි විවේචනයට වඩා අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ වැඩපිළිවෙල.
A program that is realistic is more important than raising criticism. We have presented our plan to everyone in this country. We have also unveiled the economic strategy for the nation that aligns with our party's election manifesto. In here, we have disclosed our plans ahead and the timeline for each of these projects. Independent analysts express their views and opinions on this after studying it thoroughly. Everyone should elect Sajid Premadasa to ensure the development of the country through his plan. No other candidate can implement the plan of Sajid Premadasa.
අපගේ ජයග්‍රහණය මම සියලු දෙනාගේම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා ලංකාවාසී සාමයෙන් භුක්ති විඳින්නට ඕන.
I request everyone to celebrate our victory in the presidential polls harmoniously. Do not harm anyone or inflict violence. Those are not the policies of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Following our election victory, please be ready for the program of developing the nation. We will safeguard the public right to follow the religion of their choice. We will eradicate drugs and the underworld from the country within 6 months following my election to office. We are not engaged in fraud and theft. We have not struck political deals. We have not planned conspiracies. Developing the country by reviving the 22 million people who are suffering at the moment is the only deal we have. Do not be afraid. We will apprehend thieves and confiscate the resources they stole. Samaga Jana Balawega is the only party in the opposition that work for the people without holding political power. Please provide your mandate to the son of Ranasinghe Premadasa without any fear on the 21st of September.
ඔබගේ අති විශිෂ්ට ජනවරම 21 වෙනිදාට බය නැතුව රණසිංහ ප්‍රේමදාසගේ පුතාට මේ හයිය ලබා දෙන්න.
Now, presidential candidate and leader of the National People's Power, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, says that the National People's Power will follow a new economic policy that facilitates more dollar inflows into the country while following a strategic framework to prevent the dollar outflow. Addressing a rally in Kalutara, Dissanayake said that his government will not allow racism and religious extremism to persist in the country.
The final election campaign rally of the National People's Power in the Kalutara district was held last evening under the patronage of the party's leader and presidential candidate Anura Kumara Dissanayake.
Yesterday, Sajid confirmed that he is a coward. It is understandable to be afraid of Anura Kumara Dissanayake. Why does he need to be afraid of Derana's Kalindu?
Anura Kumara Dissanayake bayai kiyamuko Sajid. Ai appa Kalindu baya wenne. Derane. The September මාසේ 21 වෙනිදා අපේ රටේ මේ
We will be marking the initial step of a long journey on the 21st of September. From the beginning itself, we will have to implement a series of changes. The National People's Power will create a political culture in the country where the members of the public could sit together with politicians. We will do that gradually. We will not allow racism and religious extremism in our country. We will not allow conflicts and statements based on racism and religious extremism. However, the election campaign of Sajid Premadasa focused on publicizing statements that insinuate racism and religious extremism. I am not surprised because Sajid Premadasa lacks an idea about complex matters such as the country's economy, democracy and development. His politics is all about mudslinging and spreading misinformation. He lacks knowledge on the crisis in the country, the reasons for those crises and how they developed, and the solutions necessary to address them. The National People's Power will change the entire structure and follow a new economic policy that facilitates more dollar inflows into the country while following a strategic framework to prevent the dollar outflow. They have destroyed the country enough. Do not disturb and obstruct our process.
Ranil Wickremesinghe අපි බලා ගන්න. අපි කරුණා කරලා කියන්නේ ඇති මේ රට කෑවා.
Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Namal Rajapaksa, asserted that he will implement a program to transform the country into the most developed nation in South Asia after being elected to the office of president. Addressing a rally today, Rajapaksa requested the public to give him the mandate to develop Sri Lanka to greater heights. Another election campaign rally of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was held today in Tissa Maharama under the patronage of the presidential candidate of the party, Namal Rajapaksa. Those who made the nation bankrupt are aligned themselves with Sajid Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is responsible for transforming the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport into a warehouse. A few days after the airport commenced operations, it was shut down. The law books do not contain the laws necessary to bring those who sabotage the nation's revenue stream to justice. Therefore, I request Namal Rajapaksa to draft the necessary laws and punish those who contributed towards the country's downfall as soon as he is elected to the office of the president. All of the people present here are our people. The Rajapaksas never forget our roots. Likewise, we know that you will never forget to pay gratitude to those who assisted you. There are foreign conspiracies to elect a puppet ruler for the country. Some people want to drag this country down to the status of Bangladesh. We should defeat that opinion. I request that you vote for Namal Rajapaksa to ensure the development of this country. We are a political force which actually worked for the country. Unfortunately, members of the government of good governance fail to understand this reality. They assume that the Mattala International Airport was built to be transformed to a warehouse. Although we were arrested previously, we were not involved in theft. I urge those who accuse us to file a case against us if we were ever involved in theft. We will appear before any court to prove our innocence. We will rectify our mistakes going forward. We request everyone to vote for us in the presidential election on the 21st of this month. Following our victory, we will implement the program to transform the country into the most developed nation in South Asia. Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the Sarva Janabale, Dilip Jayawira, assured that his strategic plan will empower women to better contribute towards Sri Lanka's economic development as entrepreneurs. Addressing a rally in Kandy, Jayawira said he is ready to provide the change that the entire country has requested.
A rally organised by the women's wing of the Sarva Janabale was held in Kandy last evening under the patronage of the Alliance's presidential candidate Dilip Jayawira.
ව්‍යවසායකත්ව රාජ්‍ය මත තමයි අපි මේ සතුටුදය නිර්මාණය කරන්නේ. එහිදී කාන්තාව ඔබට විශේෂිත වූ කාර්යභාරයක් තියෙනවා. කාන්තාවගේ ඒ ව්‍යවසායකත්ව දායකත්වය රටට හිමිවීමෙන් පමණමයි අපිට මේ රට සෞභාග්‍යමත් රටක් ලෙස ඉස්සරහට ගෙන යන්නට පුළුවන් වන්නේ. කවදාක්වත් අපේ කාන්තාවට මේ සහනාධාර වලින් පමණක් යැපෙන්නට අවශ්‍ය අය නෙමෙයි. ඉතින් මේ සහනාධාර ක්‍රමය අපි හිතේ හයිය කියන වැඩපිළිවෙලක් කරා තමයි ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ.
ලංකාවේ කාන්තාව කියන්නේ උත්තම කාන්තාවක්. මම ඔබට බොහොම ආදරෙන් කියනවා, බොහොම සෙනෙහසෙන් කියනවා මේ සම්ප්‍රදායික දේශපාලනය විසින් ඔබගේ ජීවිතය
Women in this country are precious. Traditional politics in this country fail to develop your standard of living and make your dreams a reality. That is why the entire population in this country, including women, requested a change. We have explained what will happen to you after the 22nd. We have assured you all that the minimum income of your family will increase to 100,000 rupees within a year. The essence of the entrepreneurial state concept under which this plan is developed is empowering women through entrepreneurship. We have mentioned how the government will provide capital and strength to encourage women's entrepreneurship. Not only that, our plan mentions how the government will intervene to prevent the collapse of a new enterprise. Please cast your vote in front of the symbol star on the 21st. Sri Lanka's future will not change if you cast your vote for the symbol star.
Star dishwasher Dali Hill Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star dishwasher Magic Tapika.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Now, Sri Lanka is at a decisive point in history as the island nation is set to elect the 9th executive president on Saturday. 39 candidates are running for the presidency, and this is the first presidential vote since the economic collapse in 2022. We spoke to both youth representatives of political parties as well as young people to understand their aspirations for future Sri Lanka. Derana for the Derana reports.
As Sri Lanka embarks on path to overcome economic and financial woes, the country is set to elect the next executive president on the 21st of September. A record 39 candidates are in the race for presidency, with 5 key candidates in the run. With several competing promises and vows being made at election rallies and meetings, a key demographic, the youth, have a key concern. Are these candidates aware of the change that the youth aspire for Sri Lanka? Election Commission statistics show that 17,140,354 voters have registered to cast their ballots at the poll. Around 1 million of those registered electors are first-time voters.
Election is taking place after the Aragale. There was a youth uprising 2.5 years back. And now we are running with the interim president. Especially the youth people wanted to have a system change. Now this is the time for making their change, marking their ballot properly, whoever they think to get into power. And also there are around 1 million youth voters are marking their ballot in these elections because we had a last election in 2019. So we are having these elections after 5 years. So this is very critical for the youth vote. And the youth vote can make difference in these elections. The youth vote can be a changing point. This president, whoever get elected, take their own decisions, it will affect not only the 5 years period, it will affect for the younger generation's future.
Sri Lankan citizens who completed 18 years of age between the 1st of February to the 31st of May 2024 have also been registered as electors.
Youth make up almost quarter of Sri Lanka's population. It is 4.64 4 million. As Sri Lankans, we are getting ready to cast our vote at the election to be conducted on 21st September 2024. Considering Sri Lankan votes, youth votes are so critical because they are change makers. On 21st of September, we are expecting that almost all the youth will go to polling stations and cast their votes because they are the people who can think in innovative ways. Comparing with adults, they are the people of our future leaders. They can create future of Sri Lanka.
Considering the importance of securing the decisive youth vote, presidential candidates too have shown great interest in including their aspirations for change in their respective election manifestos. To further understand their stance on the aspirations of the youth, we spoke to young politicians representing several presidential candidates. Our question was what these young politicians aspire for future Sri Lanka.
As a young politician, we're looking for a future in Sri Lanka where the public is no longer reliant on politicians to help them get through their day-to-day lives. We want to make sure that the bureaucracy in the country is running smoothly, that allows for the public to be comfortable and not rely on political interference, which then allows for us as young politicians to be able to look at a macro policy for the region. We need to be in a situation in the future where we are competing with countries in the region. Economically, we need to go towards integration with the region. I think in 15 years, 25 years time, we want to be at a position where Sri Lanka has reached its potential that we have spoken about for so long and be competitive. The most important policy that we have to look at is first preparing the future generations to compete on this evolving global economy that we have.
What we need to understand is that 40% of the population are below the poverty line. It is important that we take care of the marginalized, the poor in this country. The 2024 election is a very decisive election in the history of Sri Lanka. It is about selecting a leader that has the capability and the drive to take Sri Lanka out of this economic debacle that you and I are facing. If you want change, as mentioned in the Aragalaya, system change comes with the team that has the plan to bring that system change. And also the youth of this country must understand that it is not a protest vote. It is not a time for you to go and cast your vote based on your anger. And one also must understand that policies that are put forward, you are not getting a clean slate to implement these policies. You have to make sure that whatever you do, that you understand the economic realities, the sciences in this country.
Future Sri Lanka should be a place where we would like to stay. We need to end corruption for good and establish a good political culture, rule of law, and also get the potential, fullest potential of our resources, making it an economy that thrives in the region. We would be implementing transformative policies in our economy to achieve the potential of Sri Lanka, where the private sector will thrive with great support from the government in technology, education, and other incentives. We would invite foreign direct investments in terms of technology, capital, and market access, and transformation in the education and health sector, and also that we protect the environment, reaching a sustainable levels in the economic growth. So these policies are interconnected, and these policies has been presented today for National People's Power.
As a young politician from Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramuna, I want Sri Lanka to be a developed country by 2035. And my personal choice is where young people and their choices are respected, individual rights are respected, their liberty is valued, and most importantly, their dreams can be achieved without any discrimination. In order to achieve that, we have to respect young people of this country as valuable citizens.
The people of Sri Lanka need to be motivated and have a common purpose, a purpose that all of them understand and will be striving towards by their own volition. Sri Lanka as a whole, the government sector and the private sector need to have a clear idea about their macro strategic vision. So Sri Lanka needs to understand that for quite some time they have not been dealt with, or they as a people haven't really understood what the Sri Lankan dream is, and be passionate, be risk-taking enough to pursue that dream. There are policies that I would like to see enacted, and one of the first things there is to have a proper unique authority in the country to look into whether a policy decision has some relevance to all sectors in the country and it's not working in a silo. And secondly, we need to be able to take a clear decision to digitize all of our financial transactions.
Sri Lanka faces this crucial presidential election on the 21st of September 2024, one that will elect the 9th executive president of Sri Lanka. Sri Lankans will go out to vote for the first time to elect the executive president after the country plunged into crisis in 2022. The next president is expected to bring in policies and reforms to shape future Sri Lanka, while also focusing on what is expected from today's youth. I will be speaking to few representatives of the youth to better understand what is really expected of a developed Sri Lanka.
Few key areas for the future youth. One is economic development, education reforms, social equity. This is most important key areas.
I'm a startup founder. I want to private sector capacity to generate income for our country.
We expect from the coming president to do something unique to this country, mainly the taxes and all. Honestly, we don't like to live with this country anymore, so we hope to go abroad.
Welcome back. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe asserted that European companies will commence investing in the country's stalled projects once Sri Lanka officially exits from the state of bankruptcy. The head of state made this claim while addressing the inauguration ceremony of the Western Automobile Assembly Plant in Kuliapitiya. Speaking further, the president highlighted that a 1,000-acre investment zone will be established in Bingiriya, and 500 acres have already been allocated in Iranavilla for a tourism zone. The president affirmed that these areas will become hubs for both tourism and production. President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday inaugurated the state-of-the-art vehicle assembly plant of Western Automobile Assembly Private Limited in Kuliapitiya. This $27 million facility is the largest vehicle assembly plant in South Asia. According to the President's media division, a 15-seater passenger van, the first vehicle to be assembled at the factory, is expected to enter the market by the end of the month. The factory, equipped with cutting-edge machinery designed by global automotive experts, will generate both direct and indirect employment opportunities for local youth. The facility also houses a vocational training institute in line with international industry standards, which offers young people the chance to gain skills that will qualify them for overseas job opportunities.
අපි 2015 මේක අනුමත කරේ. එදා ඉඳන් ඒකට විරුද්ධව
We approved this project in 2015. However, several campaigns were launched against this initiative. Then the project was delayed due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis. However, when I assumed the office of president, I made the decision to recommence all stalled projects. This facility has the capacity to produce 50,000 vehicles annually. This factory is only one step in the broader development of Kuliapitiya. We will also establish a 1,000-acre investment zone in Bingiriya. This would be the largest investment zone so far in the country. Additionally, 500 acres of land in Iranavilla was allocated to establish a tourism zone. We must make plans for the middle part of the 21st century. We cannot afford to fall behind. European companies are now joining Chinese companies in investing in these projects. They are only waiting us to officially emerge out of bankruptcy. Extensive deliberations were held with the IMF and the World Bank. We are now in the final stages of negotiations and we are progressing according to these agreements. Some claim that they will alter these agreements. However, if that happens, not only would we lose international support but funds as well.
And up next, we have Nishara Pereira from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy in our next segment, Economic Outlook.
Sri Lanka recorded a 4.7% growth in GDP during the second quarter of 2024. Turning to the energy sector, crude oil prices experienced significant volatility during the week from September 7th to 13th. Prices hit their lowest level since December 2021 midweek, following OPEC's downward revision of its demand forecast for both 2024 and 2025. However, prices rebounded later in the week due to output disruptions in the US caused by Hurricane Francine. In the financial sector, the average weighted call money rate was recorded at 8.61% compared to 8.54% at the end of the previous week, signaling a slight tightening in the money market. Meanwhile, the total outstanding market liquidity recorded a surplus of 38.582 billion rupees by September 13, 2024, down from 48.078 billion at the end of the previous week. Now, this reduction reflects a tightening of liquidity within the financial system. In the government securities market, yield rates for both treasury bills and bonds exhibited an upward trend in the primary market during the week.
And that's all from us here at First at 9, but stay tuned for a review compiled by Derana English on the key policy pledges given by the 5 top contestants in the run-up to the presidential poll. Thank you for joining and have a good night.